been a very long journey. I was contemplating on making two scripts. One was this animation film called Chaar Shahibzaade, and the other was a live action film, which was about the legend of the Golden Temple. And while I was pondering with these ideas, and I shared with one of my common friends and my writer of one of my films, who happened to probably interact with me on what I was doing, just like you asked. And he said that if you do an animation film, I know of my friend who I'm working with, and probably they would be very keen. And that's how he and me met, and the conversation started. And the result being such that the film that was actually going on floors, The Legend of the Golden Temple, was put on hold. And we started with the animation film Chaar Shahibzaade. We hit off well, and we decided that we'd go ahead and make this film.
Yeah. Maybe destined to do it. But it was good, a great experience as such. One, our animation industry in India, you know where it is. So, as far as i.Realities is concerned, our attempt has always been that take mainstream guys into animation. So, this becomes a right combination because Baweja being a very celebrated producer-director in mainstream Hindi films. Now he has an idea, then definitely it is going to be a great mainstream story. Rather than doing some dogs and cats, which is not happening in India, it is better to take these stories. It was a challenge because one, it is touching religion, extremely sensitive subject, so that you cannot have characters which are cartoony or artificial, because this community is extremely sensitive to the gurus. So it's an extreme challenge, but then we thought this is it for the industry.
The appreciation is much higher, and I think it's bonanza for the animation industry in India, which was lying very low. And at least now this gives an option to people that this is another avenue that can be exploited. And I always believed that it was not the animation which was going wrong. I thought, and I was always announcing this, that it is the same subject being repeated again and again on the animation front, and why people do not come to see it because they don't want to see the same thing again. You can't keep telling the same story again and again. Now that's what happened with the animation industry in India, that they either have a Mahabharata or have a Ramayana, or have a Sons of Arjun, or have a Hanuman, or have something else, bifurcation to something or the other to Ramayana and Mahabharata, and they were not getting out of it. With an exception, Samuel, of course. We always have exceptions to every rule. So I believe that was the cause of the constraint and probably the not working of animation films in India. Not to say that when I started, this also being a very religious script, but then this film is not about religion, but about characters who belong to the guru. But it's a very dramatic story, and I wanted to tell it in a very dramatic form, just like a movie. I analyzed the script and realized that this film has the potentials to be a feature film.
And what second problem has been is, you go to make an animation film, and while we are overwhelmed with animation, you forget that actually audience is coming to listen to a story, and you overwhelm with technology, you overwhelm with animation, you try to over-exaggerate because it is animation, and in the process you forget that you need a story. You need a story to be told to the audience. Audience is not coming to see an animation film. Unfortunately, animation industry is still stuck to do that over-exaggeration, and then you disturb this story. Whole idea of last 2.5 years, 3 years we are working together, we were trying as much as possible that it is kept real. And nowhere animation and technology overwhelms the story.
When we started, I think the animation studios were shutting down actually. And that's the time when we decided to make a film, and an expensive film. And I mean, everybody thought we are we lost our mind, and we probably are wanting to head for trouble. But I think it was the conviction which paid off, and just rightly we were discussing about the content. I think a story well told is the better one. So finally it's the content, and you need a platform to express your content. It could be a feature in a live action film, it could be a VFX based film, or it could be an animation film, as long as the story is being told by using a platform correctly. I think that's what really mattered, and that's what the intention was, and that's what we drove towards. And as he's saying, that when people come out of theatres today, if they are emotional, if they are connected, it's because they connected to the characters. And now, if the story was not well told, the animation was very good, we would have not made a beautiful film. And if the story was well told and the animation expressions were not so good, as natural as we've tried to make them, the connect may not be that strong. So it was a good combo of coming together of a well-told story with the animation being to the point that probably with our limitation that we could afford, but yet make sure that within this limitation the feeling is connected, the connect is there with the characters, which was the intention. And I think that's what finally mattered. It was not the animation movie to start with actually, it was payback time. You look back in life and think that God's probably been so kind to you, there must be a better way to thank Him. And you say, okay, what can I do to thank Him in a better way? We all probably think that, okay, we went to the church, we went to the Gurdwara, we asked for God for something and He gave it to us, and we went back and thanked Him and probably distributed sweets to everybody, or to Prasad, or probably prayed and did a bit. And we went on step by step and doing the thank you again and thank you again, not to God. Could be a better way. And I started thinking, what better way could it be than I being a filmmaker or make a film on something that looks like the people which has never been done before. And that's when I went with those 2 script ideas all the way to Amritsar and started telling them that I want to make a film. And when I talked about what I wanted to make, and they said, you cannot make a film of the Gurus because you cannot animate them. I said, if I won't be able to animate them, I don't want to make a documentary. I want to make a feature. And they said, okay, you can animate his family. And then when I researched and I realized, oh yes, of course, I have a beautiful story of the 4 sons of Guru Gobind Singh Ji, and why not make a film on that? And that's why animation, because I couldn't make a live action on it. And then when that script was ready and the other one was ready, which is in the Golden Temple, I said, then I was trying idea which one to start first. And as rightly said, the animation industry was on the decline. And one thought that, will I be able to get someone in? And if I do, will audience accept animation? So these questions kept, because the Indian animation was going all the way on the wrong side of the fence. So I started concentrating on the live action film until we met.
And good storyboards. I think a lot of stuff we did at the storyboard level. A lot of in-depth research and a lot of hard work Harry sir and his team also put in at the storyboard level. Yes, action is always a challenge because action cannot be storyboarded to that level. But rest of the film was storyboarded in-depth. It was laid out with the dialogues. So a lot of pre-production. I think 1 year is pre-production. In the whole process, 1 year went into pre-production. Micro level of understanding. And I think 90% of it we matched. We did not change much in the storyboard kind of stuff. So I think that pre-planning is very important in these kind of films.
We had about 28 trials of the storyboard film. Taking reactions, adding, subtracting, changing, seeing what people are saying, understanding what their reactions are, then probably rephrasing the film, like reshooting, re-storyboarding, adding, subtracting, and then finally we said, okay, the last few trials we called people and said, okay, what do you think of this? And they couldn't say anything. And said, no, I think it's just fine. And then we went down for a few more trials, and when everybody stopped commenting and said, no, I think it's just right. And then I said, okay, now it goes locked, and now let's push.
Biggest challenge is photorealism. You have to get extremely realistic looking characters, which should not be plastic anywhere. So it starts right from the designing of the character. Getting the personality in the character right, particularly Guru Saab.
Yeah, it took 6 months to do.
It took 6 months for one face for us. And
we had to match what was there in the pictures. So they have a perception of Guru Saab. Now we couldn't deviate from that. And then do it in 3D with the camera around, which means you had to match his features very well.
And there are no references of any other angle because normal pictures are in one angle only. We don't have any reference of him looking from other side. So all imagination without disturbing the sensitivity. So that is the biggest first challenge, is that how do you get it exactly right. So that took time in designing. Then your skin textures, then your models, then because you are going to get expressions on it, and in the limited resources, it's not a Hollywood film, it's a limited resources Indian film. So in those resources you have to get expressions right, so your rigs have to be perfect, your facial rigs have to be perfect, you cannot be insensitive to the sentiments of the people. That's why that took another further challenge, is identifying which points on the face we are going to map, so that whole films, because it's from happy to angry to tragic to sad to crying, entire emotional spectrum is in this film. And without the body language of Disney, you don't have that to do. That means most of it is on face. Now while designing the rig, we have to anticipate the whole film, that where this kid, now there is a young kid of 5-6 years, and most of the people on Twitter today tweeted, is that kid when he tells the elder brother that I want to hug you. That is the most sensitive scene. Now getting that expression on that 6-year-old's face and his brother's face and the surroundings is an extreme challenge that we have to anticipate way in advance before even we get into animation. Because once we get into animation, we can't change the rig. So while making the rig, while making the model, whole story has been anticipated that these all things are going to come. Now normally that is very transparent to the director, but behind the scene that happens. That how micro level we test every expression, assuming how that will be played. Another very exciting thing we did is that we shot the director acting. Because this is no motion capture. Most of the people felt that this is performance capture, motion capture. This is handcrafted animation, handcrafted by artists. So we captured the director while directing. He actually must have directed the film the way he would have directed on the sets, right sir?
True.
So he acted, gave us acting reference, we shot his expressions, good expressions we got, then those are converted into facial rigs and then they were animated. A good artist also has to be a good actor. Animator is not the tool. Unfortunately, we have tens of thousands of people who have learned the tools. But a great animator is a great actor. He has to breathe in, understand this character has to look live, and to make him look live, the character has to breathe. Now that is extremely difficult. Unless this guy is an actor, he feels the subject. Unless the character who is animating a particular character, the animator does not get into the role. My brief day and night and constant pressure on them is that get into the character. You have to put heart there. Technology is there. See, there is no difference in what technology I have and what technology studios outside the country has. We have to have that kind of a commitment. Fortunately, my team could build that commitment. And they are just not artists, they are actors. They acted through these characters.
Before I go to the sensors, I would have had to go to the actual sensors of the HGPC, the controlling religious body, right? Because there was a connection of the Guru Sahib and his family involved. So the process of making sure that not a single objection can be raised or will be raised or may be raised, or in the back of mind, something I may have overlooked, was all checked, double checked and rechecked. So before it went to the censors, it was all really cleaned out. And the intention was to make a good film and not to create a controversy or create a situation where I could hurt somebody's religious sentiments or anybody's probably sensibilities. It was to make a good film, clean film, tell the story which is inherently so dramatic. So you don't need any gimmickry to do that either. And be to the point. And the censors, so this exercise was already, the input was already there. When we started doing action, that's where the problem came. Now those actors or the animators, you have to be someone aggressive to have a fight. So how do you punch someone and how do you get a punch and how you get hit and how you're going to react? And when they had to come to action is when actually it became even more amusing because they had never fought or maybe they were not aggressive people. And now to get the body line action perfectly from them, well, that became a task. In the beginning they were all a little fluttered and then probably they got onto it later.
Yeah. There are around 45-50 animators, which are hardcore. Then there are cleanup artists and there are simulation artists and all that stuff. But various stages, overall we are around 200 people which touch the film. But it's always the core that really puts it.
It's in 3 languages, so we have it in Hindi, in Punjabi and it's dubbed in American English. Because a lot of people sitting outside who have interest in the film, so we loved it in their language, they adapt to it and understand it even far better. Of course we have the subtitle version too. But
one interesting thing is, you went and shot on camera people in Punjab to see how they pronounce, how their diction is, and actually authentic. We could have got people doing it in Mumbai, but he went into the remotest areas of Punjab just to get that authenticity. So my animators can bring that same authenticity out. So he actually went there and shot.
We picked up those age characters and shot them.
From Punjab itself. You have taken 100 years for Hindi film's budget to touch 100 crores, right sir? We are 10-year-old industry. If we anticipate people will give us massive budgets, like Hollywood, because it is Hollywood gives that kind of a budget, it is wrong. You have to work around in the smaller budget, create what we have created. Definitely next project will have a better budget. The budget cannot be constrained. In storytelling particularly, budget is not a constraint. I strongly object whenever people say the budget is a limitation. You have a limitation, yes, but if you compare your output to something else, like you sit in a Maruti 800 and then crib about BMW features, not there, it's the same thing. But that does not mean Maruti does not take you to work. The basic purpose of the medium is telling the story. Now budget cannot be restriction to that, and budget is a factor of revenue. Minute films start making revenues. Now because these big films have 300 crore revenues, so their budgets are reaching 80-100 crores. But if Hindi film industry also would have put 100 crore budget for 15 crore written, the industry wouldn't have been there. So it will evolve.
The budget of our film, if you compare it to a Tintin, is less than 1%. And we have given a quality which is far more in percentage to the 1% that we probably got the budget to spend. So I think that itself is incredible. The fact that the audience is ready to accept it, which was not there before, gives us another option that yes, even this medium is there for grabs, and people are ready to accept it. The acceptance was the issue, which has gotten defined now. Acceptance wholehearted by the audience. So a good story, an animated film of this nature or any nature is accepted if the content is right. So I think this opens up another avenue for filmmakers to go into these kind of films where they can express something which probably can be expressed better in animation. And I think it just has opened up a new avenue completely. If you want to know anything about animation, go to animationexpress.com. You will learn a lot.
Animation Express has been a valuable resource. It gives you the whole world's perspective towards animation. I think there is nothing else in India from the animation studio's perspective to the level of Animation Express in terms of information resource in animation.